Hello, fellow midlifers. Welcome to the channel. Today I'm sharing how I managed a rehab on a house from 1,900 miles. So you can decide if doing something like this is right for you. For those of you who are new, I'm Jean. I bought my first rental property at 40, and it was an out-of-state property in Central Arkansas. Since then, I've been slowly acquiring one rental at a time. I found a foreclosed property a few years ago that needed some rehab. The property was 1,900 miles away from where I lived. It was in a desirable location, and I was able to buy it at what I thought was a pretty deep discount. So I thought it was time for me to try a small rehab and do a BRRRR. BRRRR stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. And I'll tell you later how that went down. But in the meanwhile, these are the things that I did and how I rehabbed a property from 1,900 miles away. The first is that I read a lot of books. I know I keep saying this in my previous videos, but education was really key for me in real estate investing, even in midlife. And even if I was already in my 40s and had somehow been through a lot of life experiences already, I felt like if I was undertaking something new, I thought it was important to educate myself as much as possible. So if you're interested in some of the books that I read to educate myself on real estate investing and rehabbing a property, I'm going to leave some links down below and you can check them out. I also watched a lot of YouTube videos. If you're watching this, then I know that you're a lifelong learner and would like to learn. But I hope you don't stop with this video. Watch how other creators and real estate investors are rehabbing their property. There's always something to learn from someone. The third is that I got detailed bids from contractors even before I closed on the deal. I found contractors from referrals from my network, people like my property manager, my inspector, my real estate agent. Since I was from out of state, I really had to lean on my network. But the good news is that people know people. And so I was able to get several contractors to give me bids before closing on the deal. So I knew how much I would be spending on the rehab. It was also important to understand payment terms and timing on when the contractors could start and when I could expect them to finish. And that was all part of the bid. The fourth thing I did was that I vetted contractors by asking for pictures and referrals of their prior work. I was very transparent with them from the very beginning, saying that I was out of state and that I would like for them to provide updates on the project weekly, as well as I expected pictures and videos of the progress of the project. I ultimately went with someone my property manager knew and used, even if he wasn't necessarily the cheapest. It was going to be a 3-week rehab project, and he could start a few days after closing on the property. He also didn't require payment upfront and agreed to a 3-month payment plan after project completion. He was also an investor himself, so I really felt like he understood me a lot. The project needed new flooring, new paint, new subfloor in one of the rooms, and some siding work, plus a couple of small things here and there. The fifth thing I did while managing this rehab was that I booked a flight to Central Arkansas and showed up without telling the contractor that I was coming. He did regularly send me pictures and videos of the work, But since this was my first rehab, I wanted to be there physically for a few days just to see for myself and validate the work that was being done. I heard this a lot: trust, but verify. This was my way of verifying. This trip gave me the opportunity to meet the contractor in person, to see everything for myself, from the demolition of the floor to the painting of the walls. And for someone like me who had no understanding and experience of this kind of work, it was really quite an eye-opener. I didn't get to stay there the entire time during the rehab since I had to go back to my work, but the rehab was completed on time. And it was a very fulfilling project for me, just seeing the transformation of what it looked like before and after the rehab. The sixth thing that I did was I made sure the contractor was paid for his 1/3 once the project was completed. I also sent him post-dated checks for the rest of the payment plan. I've learned that it's important to pay contractors on time, and even more so if they do a good job. We put the property on the market for rent as soon as the rehab was completed, and the property manager found a tenant within 2 weeks. Since this was my first time rehabbing a property, I actually went a little bit over budget. I spent a little bit more than I originally budgeted, although we did finish the project on time. I was also hoping that I could refinance it and BRRRR it after it was rented out, but interest rates climbed higher and higher from the time I closed to the time that we found a tenant. My saving grace was that I purchased it at a 30-year fixed rate of 6%. It's cash flowing, although not as much as I thought it would. This was another lesson for me, that things don't always go as planned and that I should be very careful when structuring a high-risk deal. I learned so much from this experience: how to vet contractors, how to manage a project remotely, how much rehabs cost, how long it takes to rehab certain parts of the house, etc., etc. This was something I never imagined that I thought I could do, but I really didn't do it alone. I leaned a lot on the members of my network as well as my sister, who was local, to be able to pull this off. I still own this rental to this day, and I still haven't been able to refinance it. Sometimes I wonder if this was kind of a fail because it's somewhat an incomplete BRRRR. It's just a BRRRR. I was only able to buy, rehab, and rent it out. I wasn't able to refinance and repeat. But I also remind myself of all the lessons that I've learned and all the experience I gained as a midlife real estate investor. I also find comfort in other real estate investors who talk about the slow BRRRR when interest rates started rising a couple of years ago, and that they still intend to refinance their properties, although not immediately. So it's a slower BRRRR, a longer period of time before refinancing it, like a few years. At the time of this recording, interest rates are in the low 6s. So I'm hoping that maybe in a year or two, I might be in a position to do a refinance and call it a really complete BRRRR, BRRRR. I hope this video helps a fellow midlifer who might be doing a light rehab on the rental or investment property. I hope it also helps someone avoid some of my mistakes and learn from some of my small wins. And I hope it gives someone the confidence that if someone like me was able to pull this off, somebody who had zero understanding of what it was like to rehab, what it's like to rehab a property, I hope it gives someone the confidence that if someone like me was able to pull this off, so can you. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever done a rehab or a BRRRR? How did it go? Drop your experience or questions in the comments below. And if you found this content helpful, I'd appreciate a like and a subscribe. And if you think that this would help someone, this video would help someone, please feel free to share it with a friend who might need the extra push to get started. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.